Sons and daughters favor the bold, and you are cordially invited in the pale moonlight. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Seventh Rule with Cirroc Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we are doing a review of Season 6, Episode 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to 26. We're doing a full Season 6 review, and it's going to be so much fun. Sorak, you looked at me like, wait, what episode are you saying?
It's a lot of episodes.
Yeah.
This is a good 40-hour review.
Oh, dear. So, I honestly don't even know where to start, but let's just start with this. Sorak, what did you think of Season 6 as a whole?
As a whole, I was entertained by it, very well entertained by it as a whole. Mm-hmm. There were, good episodes, bad episodes in the normal kind of ebb and flow of a show. But for the most part, I think the things that I felt about the Dominion War, because the hype and anticipation for the Dominion War finally started to kind of kick in this season. And, starting off with the occupation and seeing how it kind of unfolds from there has been pretty fun for me.
That's so crazy. You mentioned the Dominion War, because when people think about the Dominion War, it kind of went on for like 3 seasons, right? But there was a specific part of it when they were in direct conflict with the Dominion, and they abandoned or left Deep Space Nine, and they went off on the Defiant, and Kieran Odo and you and others stayed on Deep Space Nine. And we think of that as like the quintessential Dominion War. And 2 things that are strange about that. One is that it was only a 6-episode arc, but it felt like so much more because they did so much in there. And secondarily, that was the beginning of the 6th season. That was this season ago. It feels like so much has happened since then, that like it's just crazy to think that all that has happened in the 6th season. The Defiant left Deep Space Nine as basically the last scene of season 5.
Right.
And it's just mind-blowing how much they did in 26 episodes.
Yeah, and it's actually, when you put it the way that you just put it, it's interesting to think of how much of an impact that the Dominion storyline and the Dominion War essentially is one of the things that embodies what DS9 is about. So when you think of Deep Space Nine, you're going to think of this whole war between the Federation and the founders and the Vorta and the Jem'Hadar and the the whole Cardassian connection and all of these things. So they set it up so great throughout the first 5 seasons. They made me care about all these characters. They gave guys like Zial and his daughter, for example, started off in this season kind of building up on that storyline and expanding on that story, which became, central to seeing the breakdown of Dukat eventually after, her story emerges and she dies and whatnot. So all of these things happening in this year, they really built out on so many different characters, and gave us more development for guys like Nog, for guys like Damar, for guys like even Dukat had an expanded kind of insight into what his life was like and what his psyche was going through. So much happened in this season. It's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. And it's funny that you mentioned there were some good episodes and there were some bad episodes, because that's true. There were a couple that were a little below the watermark, right? The Deep Space Nine watermark. Well, let's go through all these one by one, kind of touch on some, speed through a couple others. But, the first one was A Time to Stand. and that was the first episode. That's the description is the synopsis: borrowing a captured Jem'Hadar attack ship, Sisko and crew embark on a mission to destroy the hidden base where all the Ketracel White is stored for the entire Alpha Quadrant. God, I can't believe this stuff feels so long ago, doesn't it?
Right. They gave us a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and this one was great.
So White. This is a great episode. First of all, the first thing in my notes was Brandon Tartikoff. I remember that in the credits they had this episode dedicated to Brandon Tartikoff.
Yes,
and the significance and the impact of what he meant to Deep Space Nine. He's one of the founding fathers of the Deep Space Nine as an idea in itself, along with Michael Piller and Rick Berman. But thanks to Tartikoff's contribution and his influence and his persistence, Deep Space Nine existed. So, when he passed away, they dedicated this season, which is a great season to dedicate and to kick off first episode by saying, hey, this is a guy that brought you this show, and now we're going to take it up a notch and start accelerating the drama in this season. So that was the first thing that I noticed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this was one in which Garrick kind of proves himself to be useful because, Captain Sisko's complain about headaches because that little visual thing that he has to look through, and then Garrick says that his physiology is closer to Jem'Hadar, and so he tries it on. So he becomes useful, and this is where Nog also proves his usefulness and provides some skill and acumen. It just kind of opens the door for just expansion of characters and expansion of story. And it was really, this kind of stuff is so memorable in hindsight.
I wrote down here, favorite line from this episode is Dukat when he says, my people have lost their way. I made them strong again. I could make things very pleasant for you, Kira. And Kira's response was, you could start by doing something about your breath. It was just like
sick burn, dude.
Burn.
Ooh, she got you, Dukat. You may have slaughtered thousands of people, but she just made you look pretty dumb.
Yeah, that was my line from this episode.
All right. And that one was well received by the fans, of course. The second one was Rocks and Shoals. Sisko and his crew crash on a barren world. When their commandeered Jem'Hadar ship is shot down, they encounter Jem'Hadar, who crashed there earlier and have taken Nog and Garrick hostage in exchange for medical aid for their Vorta overseer. I remember that. That was when Nog and Garrick kind of had their moments together. That was really cool. That was obviously two favorite characters, and quite possibly the first time we've actually seen them interact, and it did not disappoint.
Yes, they made a very good kind of tandem, both distrustful of the other, which I thought was a great play, right?
Yeah.
I think Garrick said, I'm not turning my back on you again, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Love the back and forth between the two of them. It felt genuine. It felt well deserved because neither one of them have earned the other's trust. At this point, we had barely seen the two of them together.
And they're both such interesting characters in that they're both kind of the outsiders. Nog is a part of the crew by choice as an outsider. Garrick is a part of the crew, not so much by choice, but because out of exile. But it's really cool when you see, Garrick talking to Quark or Nog talking to Garrick, or these kind of outside points of view that are usually giving us a different point of view, but two different points of view then squaring off against each other is always really interesting.
Another thing that I remember about this episode, two things. Number one, the Vorta that was in this episode was a fantastic actor. I think his name was Christopher Shea. Played Kevin. I'm not sure, but that's what I'm having in my notes. This was directed by Michael Vehar.
Yeah, Kevin,
Um,
right.
yeah, Kevin, the Vorta, very great performance by this actor, Christopher Shea, who guest starred. Also, Phil Morris was in this, played
Oh,
the Jemadar,
love
the
Phil Morris.
Ramat.
That guy's a legend.
Yeah, yes. So those are the two also highlights. Also with Michael Vehar, who's a favorite of ours in the cast for the fact that not only he's a great director, but we worked a lot alongside his son, who was also part of the camera department. So,
Oh, cool.
uh, yeah,
And I think you
Mikey.
started to say Phil Morris's character name, Ramata Klan.
Ramata Klan, yes.
Sounds like one of the bad guy Transformers, right? Ramata Klan, transform and get the Autobots or whatever.
Yeah. Also, there was another moment in this episode where Sisko. This is the beginning of Nog on the bridge too, right? At the Defiant, and kind of him and Sisko going back and forth. A lot of Sisko Nog in the beginning of this season and along the whole season. But one of the moments was when Sisko tells Nog, "This isn't a vote." I think Nog tried to come in there,
especially not from a cadet. FYI. FYI, yeah. He might listen to Chief O'Brien, but
yeah, you just got here.
The next episode was called Sons and Daughters. Serving with his recruit son aboard a Klingon vessel, that's Alexander, Worf finds his relationship with his son strained. Meanwhile, strained relationships abound on Deep Space Nine between Major Kira and Gul Dukat. That was over Zial, of course. God, this is so reminiscent. I'm reading this stuff and I'm like, it's almost like reading about the good old days. Like it was just 5 months ago, but it feels like the
I know. So much stuff. It's so much stuff in just one season. This feels like it would be 5 seasons. This one season feels like it would be 5 seasons of some of the new shows that are out because they squeeze so much stuff.
Yeah, this was when Zial was showing them her paintings. And Dukat was starting to think that this was like going to turn into a little bit more, such good stuff.
Yeah. I remember this episode. This is where we had Alexander Rashenko. Yeah. Worf's son was kind of an incompetent guy.
But then he kind of became like their mascot,
Right. He kind of earned the tribal respect as whatever his role was as the jokey guy, the guy who would mess things up. But I also wrote that for my episode, my summation for this one was bad dads.
Yes.
And that was because Dukat had bought that dress for Kira and then she, then regifted it to his daughter. It's like, yes, I bought this for you.
That was like, so jerk. He just doesn't want to waste.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's actually what we called this episode, everybody, if you'll notice. We called it Redemption for Bad Dads, but with a question mark. Like, is it redemption? Because Worf was kind of a bad dad, and Dukat was kind of a bad dad. Sisko, on the other hand, is on the other side of that spectrum. He's a pretty good dad. I think we all agree on that. But that was funny when you said, I remember when you first said, this episode was all about bad dads. Like, spot on. The next one was
by the way, really quickly, directed by Jesus Trevino.
Yes.
And the reason I bring that up is because once again, we talked when we've had the interview with Joe Menendez.
I thought the
director, the Picard episode that we reviewed, that also he mentioned being in the line of a very few Latino directors. And just to highlight, Jesus Trevino was directing this particular episode, and I mentioned Mike Vehar, but I'm not sure about Vehar's background.
I thought the same thing. I literally, when we just said Michael Vehar, it triggered the thought of what Joe Menendez said, which he said he believes he was the third Hispanic director. And when I said Michael Vehar, I was like, I wonder if Vehar is one, but I kind of just kept that in the back of my mind. And then when we said we saw Jesus Trevino, then I was like, oh, okay, I know that guy's got to be one, right? So maybe that's all three right there, or maybe Michael Vehar is not. But I thought the exact same thing, because it's great when people point something out and it just sticks with you. And then when you see other things, it reminds you of that. It brings you back to what this guy said. Yeah.
Right. And so I know Jesus Trevino's got to qualify with that name and his background. So
I wonder if anybody calls him Chewy.
We don't know how many of the 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Menendez said he believed there was 3, but we're not sure how many total. Mm-hmm. But we know that DS9 did represent on their end. So
shout out! Yeah, they did.
Shout out to the guys.
Episode 4 was Behind the Lines. This was LeVar Burton that directed this. Speaking of great directors, after forming an attack plan on the Dominion, Sisko relinquishes command of the Defiant to Dax after accepting a promotion. That's right. On Deep Space Nine, the Resistance faces discovery when Odo links with another changeling. Wait, the Resistance faces faces being discovered. When Odo links with another changeling. Yeah, remember he was supposed to do something to, whatever it was as part of their plan, but instead he was out busy, doing the humpies with the female changeling until Rom got caught. Ugh. And everybody was so pissed at Odo.
That was when Odo was out just mindlessly gallivanting with this liquid girl and just completely blowing it with Kira and just messing it up altogether.
Kira was getting so jealous.
I don't blame her. It wasn't just the jealousy part. It was the fact that he was letting them down in his contribution to the Resistance, which was not responsible of him, especially.
She felt betrayed. Absolutely.
Yeah. I would have, all of us. I mean, Rom probably felt betrayed the most. He was about to die. He's facing execution. But I also remember a few good moments in this. One was when Wei-Yun was telling Dukat, "Keep your voice down. Duke, smile. Smile, Dukat." And he says, "I am smiling.
I am smiling." It's good stuff.
Great scene. Yeah, good stuff.
Let's go over to Favor the Bold, another amazing one. That should be like a Ruffles flavor. Flavor the Bold. Patent pending. This one, the synopsis here is Sisko mounts an attack to retake Deep Space Nine while Rom faces charges as an enemy of the Dominion state. We're already back to Deep Space Nine. They haven't gotten it back, but they're already coming back to it. So much, it's just crazy. This is just the 5th episode of season 6, but so much happened, and the thing resolves by episode 6, if I remember correctly. But I don't know, anything jump out at you on that episode?
Wei-Yun here was wonderful in this episode. Also, shout out to the fact that a guy like Rom, who was such a, is getting so much story in this season, right? We talk about how the writers on DS9 really grow the characters and don't just focus on the cast members. They actually focus on the reoccurring guest members and everybody else who's a part of this family, and they grow their storylines as well. So this is just about expanding on that. We see Zial obviously now, like in the 2nd, 3rd episode in a row. We see more Rom. So just really good stuff.
Yeah, and episode 6 was Sacrifice of Angels, which is a fitting name because we lose Zial in this episode.
Right.
We also happen to have an amazing guest for that episode. If you'll recall, Melanie Smith, who played Zial, joined us. This was the perfect episode for her to join us. I mean, she may have had a bigger role in 1 or 2 previous episodes, but this was the one where her storyline ends. So it was great to have her to speak on her character's entire story arc, and she was such a wonderful guest. This was a great episode.
Yeah, it was a great episode. It was kind of a little tearjerker, that scene between, when she does die. The interview that she gave was fantastic. She actually mentioned that she had never died on screen before, and she was looking forward to it. Which was cool. Kind of pretty cool, right?
Give me a good death.
Yeah. I also remember, I think Damara arrested the security resistance guys, and he says, you know, you have nothing to hide, do you?
Mm-hmm.
Also, I think if I'm not mistaken, Sisko was referred to in a prophecy, in a wormhole kind of prophets talking with him. They called him the Sisko. And it just, every time I hear the Sisko, it's one of my favorite things to.
Love it.
I love
it
the
is
idea.
so Deep Space
Sisko.
Nine. It's such a Deep Space Nine thing to say, the Sisko, just like my child. You say those things and people are like, yes, you know, exactly. You know, Deep Space Nine. It's just, I don't know what it is, but it's just so Deep Space Nine. Also, forgot to mention that episode 1, we also had a special guest. Noah A.K. joined us for season 6, episode 1, which was funny because he said he was kind of like in the middle of season 5 with his wife.
Right.
And so he skipped ahead real quick to watch episode 1 of season 6 with us. So that was great. We love Noah, and that was really cool to have him join us there. The next one was, of course, You Are Cordially Invited. This is when we finally have retaken Deep Space Nine, and we can, you know, put our hair down, let our hair down and exhale and have a fun episode. This is the infamous Nog dance episode.
Yes.
Yes. It says, suddenly desiring to wed within the week on Deep Space Nine, Worf and Jadzia go through their own Klingon rituals. Worf on a 4-day bachelor party with the male members. That was hilarious. And Jadzia deals with her prospective mother-in-law, who totally opposes the idea of an alien marrying into her Klingon household. And there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Very fun. Definitely remember the Nog dance, one of the great things of this episode. I also remember the kind of hell that they were trying to put Dax through with all the Klingon, the mother-in-law.
Where she was holding the thing out, the heavy buckets.
Yeah. And, you know, it was just like, it was indicative of the kind of things that people face when they're marrying into other cultures or ethnicities. There's sometimes a rite of passage that you have to kind of prove yourself worthy of being accepted by the culture or you know, ethnicity. So, and I thought that one of the great lines in this episode was Dax saying, "I don't beg." She was like, "I don't beg," you know. And,
yes, I remember that one. You can actually picture her saying it because it's such an iconic moment. The face that she makes and the way she looks at her, and then she goes right back to lifting those things up. Good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff.
Next one was Resurrection. If you don't recognize this one by the name, and I don't, you read the synopsis and you go, oh yeah. Major Kira takes a romantic interest in the mirror universe counterpart of her deceased lover, Bareil, after he transports himself into her universe and onto Deep Space Nine. And what's funny is, I bet there's a lot of people that are listening in that are like, Resurrection. As soon as I read that, they go, oh yeah. Oh, that one. Bareil, huh? So, yeah, that one wasn't too well received by the fans. I thought it was fine. I think all of these are fine. Even the ones that people hate, like when you watch them nowadays, you're like, they're not that bad. They're fun. They're enjoyable. It's more Star Trek, you know?
Yeah, this is the evil Kira's in this. Is that the episode with her? And
yes, you're right. Yeah, Mirror Universe. So you like this episode?
Yes. There was a lot of res erections going on.
Yeah, resurrections.
Yeah, it was a great episode. Evil Kira. I always love the Intendant, you know. And, you know, there's nothing else to say except she's amazing. And when she's able to just cover all of these dynamic performances that she does. So The Not Visitor is amazing, as usual.
Oh, we got to run to a break real quick, everybody. So stick around. We'll be right back on the 7th Rule with more goodies.